Hey, you! Before you watch this, pause the video and subscribe to SemiPro right now. Jerry Krause will forever be known as the guy who broke up the Bulls, which is fair. He refused to negotiate a fair contract with an all-time great player in Scottie Pippen, denied the best coach in the history of the game a chance to return, and didn't listen to the wants and needs of the best player of all time. He made a lot of mistakes at the end in Chicago and will forever be cemented in history for it, especially after the way he was portrayed in The Last Dance. But sometimes, people forget who built this legendary Bulls dynasty from the ground up. With the exception of the Jordan draft pick, Krause made every move that got the 90s Bulls to the legendary standing they achieved. He saved Phil Jackson's fading coaching career, made an all-time draft night trade for Scottie Pippen, dealt for Dennis Rodman, and assembled a perfect supporting cast to complement his stars. If you take the purely basketball moves that he made throughout his tenure in Chicago, he was a brilliant and all-time great GM. It's when you get to Jerry's personal matters that he doesn't seem so great. The Last Dance depicted him as a rude, jealous, and cranky old man who had personal vendettas against the core of the team for stealing the attention and recognition away from him for all of their success. It makes it seem like the reason he made all of those poor moves at the end of the 1998 season was to prove a point and take out the trash. He wanted to prove that he was the key piece and the one who could build these teams, and the success wasn't just predicated on Michael, Phil, Scottie, or Dennis. He needed the fame. He needed the chance to yet again prove himself. But with all the drama aside, was Jerry yet again right from a basketball perspective to blow up the team? Maybe he was. Hindsight is 20/20, and we can now see clearly that the Bulls rebuild that Krause attempted after the 98 finals was a complete failure. But if we take the viewpoint that he really was blowing up the team as a basketball move and not a personal statement, it may not have been that bad of a decision. Like I said, in the aftermath, we can now see that the rebuild was a complete failure, so it ended up likely being the wrong choice, assuming the Bulls could compete again if reassembled. But at the same time, it might have been the best thing to do. The team at its core was aging and would have costed a lot of money to bring back, especially some of the supporting cast who now commanded big deals on the market. They had won 6 rings with this core and gotten a hell of a ride out of them. So Krause could have been thinking that it was best to let it fade out while at its peak, and avoid the embarrassing downfall that can happen to teams when they have too many aging stars on big deals. This is definitely one way to see it. Move on while you can and begin the rebuild. But unfortunately for Jerry Krause, all the evidence points to him not seeing it this way, but as the personal attack we discussed earlier. Also, Michael Jordan said in an interview clip at the end of The Last Dance that he believes that most of the team would have come back on one-year deals. So what's the harm in that, Jerry? You couldn't let your 6-time world champs give it one more run? In a low-risk, high-reward situation with short deals? Were you that anxious to rebuild? Unfortunately, this is going to forever stain his legacy. He isn't around to defend his side, so I tried to lay out his possible way of thinking, but all of what we have seen says that this was a blatant show of force by Jerry. He built maybe the greatest team professional sports has ever seen, and destroyed it all. So that being said, does Krause deserve the blame? Yes, in my opinion he does. There was a clear way to end this properly, and he chose his ego over it. But at the same time, the question must be asked, does Krause deserve the credit? Yes, in my opinion he does. I think that very few, if any, GMs could have built the team like that he did. He was a great basketball mind and an innovator, but his legacy will forever be haunted by the way the dynasty ended.